Well, Cannondale had designed an integrated cockpit system that had a stop, and it used the frame as this stop. And this was done to stop the cables passing through the integrated handlebar system from being severed. But the problem with this was if the stop or end of travel was met with some force, it would impact the frame and delaminate the frame, making the frame unserviceable. And because Cannondale wouldn't warranty them, basically that frame had to be thrown in the bin and you had to get a new frame. Well, there's a guy in Melbourne, Rail, who works for Leisure Technique, and he's come up with a solution. So what did Rail do about these delaminated frames? Now, he had a bit of a concern about these frames becoming unserviceable and just being thrown into landfill. So what he did is he went about developing a fix so the frame could be repaired. And what you've got to understand is when you're developing a prototype, it takes significant time and energy. And I would probably say it would be at least a week, say 40 hours plus, to develop something like this. And that's if it works out the first time. You may have to go back to the drawing board and redevelop it because you find that once you develop it, it needs some changing or it needs some correction because that prototype didn't work as you imagined it when you had the design in your head. So there could be significant amount of hours put into this fix that Rail has put his own time and energy in. And what you've got to understand is Rail is running a business. He's not a guy who's a hobbyist and he's just got a little lathe out the back and he's just making a few little things. He's been working in composites for many, many years, and his business where he repairs carbon frames and bikes and wheels, his company is called Leisure Technique. He's in the business to provide himself with a salary and to feed his family. So he can't go around doing these sort of things for free. It's not as if he's got a day job and this is his hobby job. Now, regarding this, he still put his own time and money into developing a fix, hopefully thinking that he may get some return on his investment. Well, once Rail completed this prototype and design, he actually embodied it into a person's bike and it worked as advertised. And he then obviously proved that his design and prototype worked appropriately, and then he also repaired a bike for a customer. So the customer was happy because you don't have to buy a new frame, it's significantly less cost, and Rail had a product that he could then sell to customers if they had a problem with their Cannondale bike. Now, once he had done this, he then made a YouTube video showing how he had made this special piece that fitted in and was bonded to the frame, and instead of having a composite stop for the handlebars, now it's stopped on the titanium metal component he embedded into the frame. So obviously a much better solution to the problem. Now, when people saw this YouTube video, then they started contacting him and say, hey, Rail, I've got a Cannondale as well, I've got the same problem. Can I send my frame to you? Can you please fix it for me? But because he was so overwhelmed and he's got other frames to repair and he's just pretty much a one-man show, he could not offer that service in any reasonable amount of time to do that work for them. So what he did is he offered the product online. So because it's a titanium product, it can be 3D printed. So he's going to offer that the specifications, the software specifications for it, so you can put that into your 3D printer and you can print out your piece, and then you would have to take it to a composite repair person who's proficient in doing that sort of work and bond that into the bike. Now, he made it very clear that needs to be a person who knows what they're doing because it's not so simple bonding different types of material to composites. So if you are going to go down that road, be aware of that. Now, because we've had so much trouble with these integrated handlebar systems, Rail also extended to a very large company that he would offer to scan parts of those bikes that have had a problem to make sure that there has been no delamination. and he contacted the company, put that out there. But we haven't had any response from that company, according to what he's put out on his YouTube channel. Now, the reason why companies will not get back to him is because the way the law works, if you're a company and you become aware of something, then you have to act on it. And if you don't, and someone is significantly injured, then that they could bring a case against you and say, hey, you were aware of this and you didn't do anything and someone was significantly injured. So then they become liable. So what you don't know is what you don't know. And big companies know that. So they're not going to engage a third party that's outside the company that is going to do some work for them, even though that may be free, to give them some information that they probably don't really want to know or legally don't want to know. So this is one of the reasons why he hasn't heard a response, even though Rail put that forward as a goodwill, and his view was for the safety reasons. But you need to understand that businesses is a risk-based company. They base safety against company reputation and also the bottom line of cost. So that's what they're looking at as a big company. Now, let's just get back to Rail as a person here. Now, to me, I really admire Rail, what he's done here. And the words that I'm going to use for this is a little bit of a modification of his words he likes to use. And I'm going to say, well, this is more than ideal. And it really shows the character of the man, because he's putting something out there that someone can very easily copy and make money off his intellectual property. But he's willing to take that risk because he wants to get people back on bikes and he wants to stop products going to landfill. And if you think that people won't go out there and copy stuff, then they do. And if anyone's heard of the quad lock, where you can actually put your phone onto a lock on your handlebars, that guy, when he first had his first invention, he didn't copyright it, and within 3 months there was a product coming out of China that were basically copied his design. So then he had to move away, and he ended up designing the quad lock, and he was quite successful. So people do this. Wherever there's money, people will take advantage. So Rail, he would know this, and he's taking quite a risk there, putting his intellectual product out there, and people could very easily steal it. But he's still willing to do that because of his own personal standards. So thank you, Ray. More than ideal, and it's great to see that we're doing this sort of thing, not just for customers, but to improve products that actually have some design flaws in them. And that's where I'm going to leave it, guys, and I will see you next vid. Cheers.